Happy Easter, all. I know. A lot of people don't celebrate this holiday, and even more are against it. But any chance for me to check out a holiday-themed horror film, and I'm gonna do it. I'm sure I'm not the only one looking for some horror film to celebrate the season after the kids have found all their eggs and you've loosened up that church tie. So let's stop hopping about the subject and check out some Easter horror films.
Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Bang, 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 bang goes the farmer's gun. Run, rabbit, run, rabbit, run, 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 run.
Easter Bunny Kill Kill was released way back in 2006. It's streaming on Tubi. It's directed and written by Ferrin. After receiving a rabbit from a bum as an Easter present, a special needs boy named Nicholas, played by Ricardo Gray, returns home to find his mother, Mindy, played by Charlotte Marie, has a new boyfriend named Rem, played by Timothy Muscatel. When Mindy leaves for work, leaving Nicholas home alone with Rem, it turns out Rem is an abusive scumbag towards the young boy. When Rem decides to have a party with hookers and drugs, a masked bunny killer begins offing everyone in the house. Easter Bunny Kill Kill is a scummy movie with some truly despicable people doing awful acts. But it reminded me of the filthy feeling you get when you watch some of those great old grindhouse films of the 70s. Ferrin is the filmmaker behind modern slasher films The Nightcaller, Scalper, The Nightcaller 2, and Pig Killer. And while this isn't going to be a film for the sensitive or those who like highbrow horror, it does have an edge to it that I found to be quite effective. The kills are especially gnarly when the bunny masked killer uses all kinds of drills, power tools, and equipment laying around the house. This film is set in some house that's going under some kind of renovation. The addition of plastic covering on the walls and windows make the atmosphere feel tight and restrictive, though in reality most likely they were used so as not to get blood everywhere on the set. It's this kind of lo-fi charm that really gives this mood a look and feel of gritty authenticity. The blank stare of the bunny mask is much scarier than most bunny masked killers, and the frequent POV shots through the circular hole of the mask is a nice touch, reminiscent of the clown mask in the beginning of the original Halloween. And the practical gore is darn impressive as the bunny masked monster wades through the various scumbags in the house with ease. On top of that, the lead scumbag, Ren, is a solid actor who really makes you hate everything he does. I haven't seen Timothy Muscatel in anything else, but he makes loathing him very easy in the way he berates and threatens young Nicholas and his little bunny. Muscatel is the best actor of the bunch, but the rest of the cast is good as well, including Ricardo Gray as Nicholas, who plays a mentally delayed person convincingly without going over the top, and an especially creepy turn by David Z. Stamp as a pedo friend of Rem's who wants to spend some special time with Nicholas. It's going to make you squirm a bit, but Easter Bunny Kill Kill surprised me. It starts out rough and a bit slow, but once Rem is alone with Nicholas and the bodies start piling up, it gets grimily good, as a claustrophobic killer in the house tale where you're happy to see the victims fall. If you liked The Driller Killer or any of the early works of Henenlotter, Easter Bunny Kill Kill is going to be your kind of twisted. Easter Casket is directed and written by Dustin Mills. One thing you can always count on in a Dustin Mills film is that you're going to see a lot of boobs, usually from indie horror cutie pie Aaron B. Ryan. There'll be a fucked up Feebles-like puppet or two, and the level of insanity is cranked to 14. Churning out films faster than I can watch them, Mills has an impressive lineup of gross-out comedy horror films under his belt, with Zombie A-Hole, The Puppet Monster Massacre, Night of the Tentacles, Skinless Pete, and my favorite, Bath Salt Zombies. Mills is at it again, this time taking on modern religion with Easter Casket, a film to watch right after you've found that last Easter egg in the yard. Though I must admit, some of the humor in Easter Casket is quite lowbrow. All of the usual jokes are used, from sexually repressed clergy to commenting on chocolate eggs looking like little poops, as one nun notes. But still, I found a lot to love in this DIY indie. Mills continues his own special brand of lunacy, casting a hand puppet as the Easter Bunny, Peter Cottontail. But this time, Cottontail has an agenda to combat the Catholic Church, who decides that the pagan rituals of coloring and hiding eggs, gifting Easter baskets, and idolizing a magical bunny should be abolished in favor of focusing on the death and rebirth of Christ. Cottontail ain't having it, and strikes out on a holy jihad, wiping out nuns and priests in sacrilegious fashion. I found myself laughing a lot at the twists, turns, and atomic wedgies unleashed on religious tropes. A knight from the Vatican is sent out by the all-powerful megapope, a talking Oz-like head, who reports to the knight, Father Astor, that there's a disturbance in the Christosphere. Megapope arms the knight with a holy hand grenade to be used at just the right time. There are multiple references to a dead nun's pubic hair, stating that one would think it would be a gnarly nun bush, but turns out it's quite coiffed, and much humor comes from the repetition of this line. One amazing computer-animated sequence has Asher taking on a flock of flesh-eating peeps with a broadsword, and the whole thing wraps up with a giant Easter Bunny puppet going all Godzilla on a cardboard city and some toy jet fighters. If any of that listed lunacy made you giggle in the slightest, then you're the right person for Easter Casket. It's absurd, it's tasteless, and Mills proves himself again as an underground director like few others, combining some ingenious computer animation with real-life comedy and horror. Some of the acting is wooden and or over the top, but it fits the lo-fi mood of this whole thing and adds to the charm instead of takes away from it. If you're a fan of laughing when most folks are gasping and don't mind low-budget horror, I think Easter Casket and any of the offbeat horrors Dustin Mills has to offer is something you're not going to want to miss. Happy Little Bunnies is streaming on Tubi. It's directed and written by Patrick McConnell. A desperate man named John, played by John Scott Clark, visits a therapist named Carl, played by Simon Manley, who has an unconventional method of therapy, encouraging John to give in to his violent and dark thoughts. Interspersed between the pauses in this therapy session from hell are seemingly random vignettes depicting a bunny-masked killer murdering random people and what seems to be some kind of twisted origin story. Is the killer John? Maybe the therapist Carl? Maybe it's Academy Award winner Casey Affleck? Or Max the dog? Or something much darker? Happy Little Bunnies is an offbeat and demented little number from the UK that delves into the dark corners of the mind most are afraid to think of. It talks about the real meaning of porn and why we watch it, the origins of evil deeds. It seems to really like the Casey Affleck movie A Ghost Story. There's murder, there's rape, there's incest, there's glory holes, and more dank material that most films wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. But it addresses these topics with the type of dry, irreverent humor only the British can produce. Everything is presented with a straight face, no matter how insane or inappropriate it is, and I found the bulk of the movie downright hilarious. While this isn't necessarily an Easter horror film, it does feature a bunny-masked killer, probably the scariest bunny-masked killer I've ever seen on film, as the mask is made of a sheet cobbled together with string and sort of droopy, swaying ears. Now that I think of it, I think it's a child's long-sleeved shirt sewn together, which makes it even more creepy. It's downright terrifying seeing this sack-masked monster slicing its way through its victims. And there are quite a few scenes of straight-up carnage to enjoy, with this one as the killer seems to have a very little rhyme or reason to the rampage. Each rampage, nevertheless, is unique and set up as small vignettes that feels as if it's building towards some kind of big reveal. And a reveal does occur at the end of Happy Little Bunnies. It does pull most everything together, maybe not the Casey Affleck stuff, but everything else together quite nicely. And while the ending does seem to address the one pervasive theme running through the entirety of the movie, it almost feels too trite and easy for it to be treated as such a big answer to the questions most people will have as this one plays out. There's even a bit where the writer, Patrick McConnell pops in and admits that most of the people who get this far into the film are exasperatedly asking, what the hell is going on? I won't reveal who the killer is, but I will promise that this film eventually gets to the point and makes sense. On the way there, you get some top-tier performances by leads John Scott Clark and Simon Manley. Clark is great as the exasperated client desperately looking for answers. Like us as the viewer, Clark is wondering why Carl the therapist is guiding him through such an unconventional route of therapy. Simon Manley as Clark is equally great as the clinical and robot-like therapist who unemotionally manipulates Clark's John through all kinds of manic hoops in this session, never letting his mask of professionalism slip. But the real delight in Happy Little Bunnies is the unpredictable nature of it all. It feels like a random series of events, so much that I was enjoying the clatter of the different twisted stories clanging together. If anything, the need to tie things up pretty soured the experience for me, and I just wanted to see this random, unexplainable mess of despicable and bizarre sequences. Happy Little Bunnies is unlike most of the films you've ever seen. It's gory, sick, twisted, uncomfortable, and simply deplorable at times, wrapped up in a shoddily made bunny mask and brandishing a knife, threatening your darkest dreams. I fully recommend this offbeat monster of a movie. Easter Bloody Easter is new on demand this week from Gravitas Ventures. It's directed by Diane Foster and written by Allison Lobel. Housewife Jeannie, played by director Diane Foster, becomes entangled in a mystery when her husband goes missing and a monstrous jackalope rampages through the quiet Texas suburb just before Easter Sunday as Easterpalooza is about to begin. With its horde of evil bunnies, the jackalope's wrath continues, bodies start falling, and it's up to a few brave housewives to weapon up and take the monsters out. Easter Bloody Easter is a lighthearted comedy that is undeniably likable. Reminiscent of Greener Grass and Donnie Darko, with its cynical take on suburban life, Diane Foster and her writer Allison Lobel produce a wonky horror comedy you can't help but guffaw at. While the humor is broad, it's especially biting, especially when depicting the vindictive relationships between the women who make up the small suburban town that presents itself as a prim and proper burb, but underneath simmers with disdain, jealousy, and petty squabbles. It's fun seeing these ladies bare their teeth to one another, surrounded by polite, smiling lips. While lo-fi in nature, the effects are surprisingly fun, using puppets and furry suits to depict the jackalope and his bunny minions. This allows the gore to be plenty without being gross, offering up a cartoonish low-key tone to the over-the-top carnage. Easter Bloody Easter never tries to make these bunnies look real, but it's the way these little puppets are used that adds to the fun. Peppered throughout Easter Bloody Easter are a few musical numbers. I wouldn't call this a musical itself, but the overly saccharinated music again covers up insidious undertones of the politics of suburban life. This is a dark, lifetime horror movie set at Easter and knows how ridiculous it really is. The songs are quite catchy and add to the offbeat nature of it all. Diane Foster seems to have made her way through the low-budget world for a while and shows her versatility in front of and behind the screen in this harmless yet bloody little suburban nightmare. It all makes for a sort of sitcom experience if you're a fan of humor found in the likes of shows like Roseanne or The Righteous Gemstones, this time with lots of gore and a giant killer horned bunny, of course, then you're the type of viewer this film will appeal to. What's your favorite Easter horror movie? Do you have one? Maybe one of these I talked about in this video can be your new one. Let me know down in the comments. And happy Easter, folks. Please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals. Click subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for notifications. You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality. You're